Tenant onboarding process. Welcome to this tutorial, where we go through the different steps of onboarding a customer. The process of onboarding a customer is divided in 6 steps. To start, surf to the MAP home screen. If you have an account, click on Login. You get the Login screen. Enter your username in the format of an email address and your password. Click on Login. Step 1. Account registration. This is the first step of the onboarding process. You need to provide information about yourself and your company. A window pops up to complete your registration. Account information. Complete your account details. Your email address is already filled in. If you entered all information, click on Next. Company information. Enter information about your company. Name of the company and the country where the company is based is information that is required before you can continue. The name of the company will be used in a later stage as the name of the tenant that will be created on the Intel EMA server. If your preferred reseller is listed in the drop-down menu, it is recommended to select the reseller. Feel free to enter other information, website, address. If you entered all information, click on Next. Contact person. If you want, you can add the details of another person of your company as contact person. Of course, you can enter also yourself as contact person for your company. Email address, first name and last name, is information that is required before you can continue. If you entered all information, click on Submit. Your account is registered. So, the first step of the tenant onboarding process is completed. Step 2. Fleet validation. This step needs to be completed before you can start with the other steps in the onboarding process. It is the most important step in the onboarding process. The information provided in this step is needed to understand how Intel EMA can help you to remotely manage your PCs. It could include an interaction with MAP support to discuss the remote management capabilities of Intel EMA for your environment and fleet. At the end, you have to decide if you want to use Intel EMA or not. It is recommended to finish this step before you purchase a MAP license. Click on Fleet Validation. The fleet validation contains different questions. Fleet size. How many Windows PCs are deployed in your environment? We are interested in your fleet size to ensure that we provide the right size tenant to you. Question 1. Operating system. Intel EMA Agent can only be installed on Windows 10 or Windows 11. If another operating system is installed on your PCs, your fleet may not be compatible with Intel EMA. So if the answer is no to this question, the fleet validation process will be stopped and you will be contacted by MAP support. After that, you click on Submit. Let us continue by selecting Yes. Question 2. Can TCP 8080 port and HTTPS 443 port be used? TCP port 443, HTTPS port, is used to get access to the Intel EMA web interface. If one of these TCP ports cannot be used, your environment may not be compatible with Intel EMA. Notice there is also a question mark symbol next to the possible answers. Click on the symbol. It provides you information about the topic. So if the answer is no to the question, the fleet validation process will be stopped and you will be contacted by MAP support. After that, you click on Submit. Let us continue by selecting Yes. Question 3. Intel vPro PCs. Click on the question mark symbol for more information. If you don't have vPro PCs, select No. You can continue to use MAP. You are able to use a limited feature set of Intel EMA, all in-band remote management functionality. Let us continue by selecting Yes. Question 4. Provisioned Intel vPro. If you don't want your vPro PCs provisioned, you can continue to use MAP. You are able to use a limited feature set of Intel EMA, all in-band remote management functionality. Click on Submit to finish the fleet validation process. Let us continue by selecting Yes. Question 5. Generation of your Intel vPro PCs. Depending on the answers that you provide, other questions will appear. Click on the question mark symbol for more information. Intel vPro PCs containing an Intel Core processor of generation 6 or 7 are not validated anymore in MAP, but they can still be provisioned and used in MAP. Intel vPro PCs containing an Intel Core processor of generation lower than 6 cannot be provisioned anymore by MAP. If you have Intel vPro PCs containing an Intel Core processor of generation lower than 6, or if you want to discuss the Intel ME firmware that is required for your vPro PCs, you will be contacted by MAP support to discuss the consequences. If you answer no to the questions in this section, a red exclamation mark pops up next to the last question. Question 6. Intel AMT over Wi-Fi. Click on the question mark symbol for more information. Intel AMT can be used over Wi-Fi in MAP when simple Wi-Fi based on a SSID and passphrase is used. The use of 802.1x in the enterprise environment limits the Intel AMT functionality in MAP. If 802.1x is used in your environment, you will be contacted by MAP support to discuss the consequences. Select Yes if you want to use Intel AMT functionality over Wi-Fi. Select Yes if you are using simple Wi-Fi. In case you are using 802.1x in your environment, select No. In that case, a red exclamation mark pops up next to the last question. Anyway, continue to answer the remaining questions of the fleet validation process. Question 7. Use of docking stations. The use of Intel AMT is limited with most of the USB-C docking stations. In most cases, Intel AMT cannot be used when the wired connection of a USB-C docking station is used to connect the PC to the internet. It means that you need to rely on AMT over Wi-Fi in that situation. If you use USB-C docking stations in your environment, and you believe it will have a big impact on the usability of Intel AMT, you will be contacted by MAP support to discuss the consequences. Select Yes if you have docking stations. Otherwise, select No. In that case, a red exclamation mark pops up next to the last question. Anyway, continue to answer the remaining questions of the fleet validation process. Question 8. Provisioning method. Depending on the answers that you provide, other questions will appear. Are the requirements for certificate provisioning to admin control mode clear? Click on the question mark symbol for more information. There are two provisioning methods: host-based provisioning and certificate provisioning. If you need certificate provisioning to admin control mode and you are not sure if your environment or your Intel vPro PCs fulfill the requirements, you will be contacted by MAP support to discuss the needs for certificate provisioning. If you select No on the following question, are the requirements for certificate provisioning to admin control mode clear? A red exclamation mark pops up next to the last question. Select Yes if the requirements are clear. It is the last question in the fleet validation step. Submit your answers. One of the following messages will be shown at the bottom of the box. Unfortunately, your PC fleet or environment may not be compatible with Intel MA. You will be contacted by MAP support. That is the message that is currently displayed, because one or more questions are flagged with a red exclamation mark. MAP support will contact you to discuss the answers that you provided for these questions, and to check if MAP can be used meaningfully to manage your fleet. Click on Submit. An alert will be raised that you submitted the fleet validation, and that you will be contacted by MAP support. Let me change the answers to questions of the fleet validation, so that there are no red exclamation marks. The following message is now shown at the bottom of the box. Your fleet is ready and can be registered, please proceed. You can continue with the following steps of the tenant onboarding progress. Click on Submit. An alert will be raised that you submitted the fleet validation and that you can continue. Step 3. License key registration. Purchased licenses can be easily registered by importing the received license keys. Click on License Key Registration. A license key registration window will pop up. Enter or paste the license keys that you bought. You can choose to activate or to not activate the license keys after assignment. For more information on the different statuses of licenses, look into the tutorial about license keys. I leave the license inactive. If you entered your license keys, click on Submit. If the list of license keys contains invalid license keys, it will be reported. The invalid license keys will be clearly marked with a red symbol. An alert will pop up notifying that the license keys were assigned successfully. On your home screen, a dashboard will be shown reporting on the licenses and the endpoints in your tenant. In the dashboard, the licenses will add it to the inactive license keys if you didn't deactivate the licenses. If you activated the licenses will be added to the active license keys. There is separate video available talking about the dashboard and licenses. So, the step of the license key registration is completed. Step 4. MR Server Tenant Registration. Your tenant will be created on the Intel MR server that you select. Click on MR Server Tenant Registration. An MR Server Tenant Registration window will pop up. Select one of the listed MR servers. An Intel MR server will be suggested based on the location, country, of your company. Click Submit. After a while, an alert will pop up notifying that your tenant, with as name your company name, is created successfully on the selected Intel EMA server. Once the tenant is created, the step of the MR Server Tenant Registration is completed. Step 5. MR User Registration. The username and password that you provide will be used to create a tenant administrator on your Intel MR tenant. In other words, this username and password you will need to log into the Intel MR server. Click on MR User Registration. An MR User Registration window will pop up. The MR server that was selected in the previous step is shown. Enter username in email format and password for the tenant administrator. Verify the password. The tenant administrator is going to manage your tenant on the Intel MR server. In other words, this username and password you will need to log into the Intel MR server. Click Submit. Step 6. Device Registration. The last step of the onboarding process is to register devices in your tenant. You need to switch to the Intel MR web interface to register the devices that you want to manage remotely in your tenant. Click on Device Registration. A device registration window will pop up. Click on MR Server or click on Open MR Server page. Another web tab will be opened, showing the login screen of the Intel MR web interface. Log in to your tenant by entering the username and password of the tenant administrator, provided in the MR User Registration step. Return to map. Look to the FAQ or to the Intel MR tutorial in the left bar for the registration process of endpoints in your tenant. Map syncs regularly with Intel MR. As soon as Map discovers that there are devices, endpoints, registered in your tenant, the device registration process is completed. With the completion of the device registration, the tenant onboarding process is also completed. Take into account that it can take some time before MAP discovers that there are devices, endpoints, registered in your tenant. Conclusion. Congratulations! Endpoints are registered in your tenant. You completed successfully the tenant onboarding process. You can now manage these endpoints with the Intel EMA web interface.